Well, Unpacked has a number of meanings. Basically, it's a revelation. And this is a group of paintings that spans the years from the 1970s until the 2020s. And so, really, I'm revealing myself over the years, and it's interesting to see what my consistencies were, my fascinations haven't veered that far from where I began. The approach and the scale and the size has changed, but my fascinations haven't. It was very complicated growing up in New York. There was a lot of transportation back and forth, and as an art student, you were always carrying something. And on the subway, it was very difficult. But the art world is the most exuberant, most exciting place, with all kinds of influences and voices being heard. I had some very wonderful teachers, and I was very young and working early at the High School of Music and Art, and where I later wound up teaching for a short while. And then I went to City College as an undergraduate and did my graduate work at Pratt Institute, two great places. And I had some wonderful mentors. In graduate school, I studied with Jordan McNeil later and early at Doug North. And they were very influential in my current approach. I sort of confounded them because I didn't do exactly what they wanted me to do, but I managed to accomplish what they wanted me to accomplish as well as what I wanted to accomplish. And I had good training. But I will tell you that the very first thing that really confirmed that I was going to become an artist was a film that was put out very early by the Museum of Modern Art with depicting Henri Matisse painting his grandson. And they showed the evolution of the different iterations of a girl in a peasant blouse. And basically, it was about taking something that was a little more complicated at the beginning and refining it down to its essences and its basic few lines. And so I like the process of distillation that I saw there and the exuberance with which he worked. And the wonderful interchange that he had with his grandson. And so that was a huge influence on me. There are different favorites. I like all of them. They're all from different periods in my life. I will tell you that this one is very exuberant. It was a very young painting done in the 70s. It's called Polonaise. I find it very musical, and I love Chopin's Polonaise in A. And so the fact that it resonates and bounces, and it's naive in its simplicity, tickles me. That one is a little more serious. That was done in the 80s, and it's called, in essence, a portrait of the artist's mother. And basically, it represents her values and her life experience. Education was very highly held as a value, and work, high work ethic. And for a while, my mother worked in a dress factory. That was an antique sewing machine that I had, that I enjoyed. And it is, in essence, a portrait of the artist's mother, all the things that she held dear and lived through. I had an accident and I was confined to my home. I didn't have any models. And I hadn't painted in a long time. I was busy doing elder care for many years. And I had a full-time job as well. And then after the accident, I was confined to home, and before the accident, I started painting watercolors, and I thought that it would be an interesting challenge because of the white of the garlic and the white of the paper, and white on white was a challenge to become, really skilled with the watercolors. And from the watercolors, I got very excited by the garlics because they were kind of human in their organic quality, and so they became my muses, and I posed them. In the same way that maybe I remember as an educator, writing sociometric and anecdotal reports about the way people behave, the way they group together, the way they stayed apart, which ones stood out, which ones huddled together. The linearity and the bulbousness of the forms are very humanoid to me. And so that was my substitute, because I didn't have anyone to sit for me in my solitude. I studied with George McNeil, and one of the things that George McNeil used to talk about was making sure that you never forgot to be able to reduce yourself to the level of being a child, having a certain kind of innocence. And I like to approach my paintings with a sense of innocence and exploration, and as though it's the first painting I ever did. Because there's an excitement of freshness, and the paint and the activity drive what comes next. I must admit that I do plan. I start with a charcoal drawing, but it evolves. One mark leads to another mark, leads to another mark, and then the whole thing becomes something. It's probably the most spiritual, inexplicable experience one can have. To make sure that you had enough money to live on, so that you could do your art freely. That's good advice. And then don't be embarrassed by seeking all different kinds of traditional, maybe out of style training, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to express what it is that your message is.